Привет, меня зовут Юлия, и я учу русский язык уже примерно год. Сейчас я на уровне В1, но мы на этот год свободно говорить. Сегодня я хочу рассказать, как я начала учить русский, что мне помогло, и поделиться советами для тех, кто тоже хочет выучить этот язык. Давайте начнем. Also, there's a storm outside, so if you hear any noise, then that's probably that. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. I started learning Russian about a year ago, and to be completely honest with you, it's one of those languages that I never thought that I was going to learn. It was just never a language that I was interested in, but that changed a year ago when I decided to go on a trip to Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. Traveling is one of my biggest passions, and Central Asia has always been a region that I was very fascinated by. So when I finally bought my tickets, I was just really excited, and I did a lot of research, and I found out that English is not very commonly spoken in those countries, and that if you wanted to communicate with locals, then it was probably a good idea to learn a bit of Russian. So that's basically how I got started. I didn't have any prior knowledge of Russian. I literally started from zero. And right now, as I said in the intro, my level is like around B1, I would say. If you're thinking about learning Russian, then you have probably heard people say, or you've seen videos online of people saying that Russian is super hard, that it's practically impossible to learn, that it's one of the hardest languages in the world. And I just want to say that in my personal opinion, it's really not that hard. I would advise you to go into it with a positive mindset, because if you go into it thinking that it's impossible, then it is going to be impossible. But if you go into it thinking that it's a language like any other and that you can do it, then you will be able to do it. Or if you cannot go into it with a positive mindset because you've heard way too many people say that it's very hard, then just go with no expectations. I think that's going to make all the difference. First thing that you need to learn is the Cyrillic alphabet. And again, I'm here to tell you that it's really not that difficult. It's actually quite easy. I think if you wanted to, then you could definitely learn it in one day, although I wouldn't really recommend it. A lot of beginner textbooks have text written in Cyrillic and then in the Latin alphabet, so you can kind of ease yourself into it very gradually and very slowly. I would recommend to try to read the Cyrillic from the very beginning, but don't stress too much if you cannot memorize every single character right away. Treat it more like a puzzle. You can even print out a little cheat sheet to help you with deciphering the words. With time, you are going to get better with time and practice, and it really is going to get easier. A lot of the characters are either the same as in the Latin alphabet, or they're very easy to memorize. But I personally struggled with memorizing a few, so I actually wrote a little cheat sheet. I can even show you. So in my Assimil book, I have this little piece of paper where I wrote a few of the characters that I couldn't really memorize. And when I would read a text in Russian, I would literally just like try to decipher the words, and if I couldn't do it, then I would look at my little cheat sheet, and it was a lifesaver. So yeah, don't stress too much about memorizing the alphabet from day one. Give yourself time, and with practice, you are going to get better. And actually, it gets kind of fun. Every time I read something in Cyrillic now, I'm just amazed at how my brain can read an entire new alphabet. So yeah, I think it adds a layer of fun to the language. My main resource was my Assimil book. This one's actually Perfectionnement Russe, so this is the like sequel to the usual beginner to intermediate textbook. This one's B1 to C. This one's B2 to C1, but the one I used at the beginning was A1 to B2, and this is my favorite series ever. I use Assimil books for every single language, so I would really, really recommend. I always make sure to use my textbooks actively. So I listen to the audio, I do shadowing practice, so I repeat every single thing out loud. I do all the exercises, I get my reading practice from my Assimil books. I really use it in every way possible. What I also love about this particular textbook is you're not learning useless stuff like fruits and vegetables. You are learning vocab that you are actually going to use in everyday conversations. Another thing I really love about Assimil is that they don't focus too much on grammar, but I mean, they give you little glimpses of grammar, but it's explained in a very accessible way, and they don't overcomplicate things. And I think that's really important, because when you go into Russian, you expect the grammar to be super difficult, because that's what everyone says, that the grammar is insane. But they make it sound easy. Before my trip to Central Asia, I got to lesson 50, I believe. So I did about half of the lessons, and I mean, my Russian was still very, very basic, but I got a lot of speaking practice while in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. People there are just so amazing and they want to talk to you all the time. So sometimes when I didn't know how to say something, I would literally type it into Google Translate and listen to the pronunciation a few times and then just say it. And I don't know what the science is behind this, but I find when you use words in real conversations, like in real life, then you just remember them a lot faster. And when I came back, I knew so many new words, very random words sometimes. I didn't actually like have to study, you know, I just learned them through real life practice. I also got a lot of reading practice while there because I would try to decipher every single street name or like street sign or an ad that I saw or like restaurant menus and stuff like that. So I got a lot of speaking and reading practice, which was amazing. After my trip to Central Asia, I decided that I wanted to continue learning Russian because I fell in love with the language and with Central Asia. So that's what I did. I also immediately bought tickets to go back to Central Asia. So I went the second time. I got a lot of speaking practice again. And my Russian just kept improving. And right now, I would say that my level is around B1. I understand a lot and I can have conversations, but when it comes to talking about like more advanced things, I sometimes struggle because I just don't know that much advanced vocab. So that's something I definitely want to focus on in the next few months. I want to practice speaking. Maybe I'll try recording myself because I think that's a fantastic way to get speaking practice if you cannot go to a country where your target language is spoken. I also recently discovered this YouTube channel called Lena's Lessons, and I absolutely love it. She has this series called Useful Russian Phrases, I believe. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. She just chooses the most useful, practical Russian phrases that you can learn and use in everyday situations. So I love her videos. I will link her channel down below. I also want to finish my Asimil book and possibly start the next one. And another thing I really want to work on in the next few months is my writing, specifically my cursive. I admit writing is my weakest skill when it comes to Russian. So I definitely want to focus on my cursive because I think calligraphy is very interesting in general. So in my future study vlogs, you can expect to see me practicing calligraphy and also recording myself speaking Russian. All right, so now I want to give a few tips for beginners or people who are thinking about learning Russian. In my opinion, grammar is not the most important thing. You can speak and make mistakes and people are still going to understand you. And the thing with Russian, and I think other Slavic languages in general, they are not very popular at all. So if you know even just a little bit, people are going to be really happy to talk to you. And trust me, like you making mistakes is the least of their concerns. They're just happy to talk to you. They want to get to know you and they're happy that you know even a few words. At least that was my experience when I went to Central Asia and Moldova. People were just so incredibly nice and they absolutely did not care if I made mistakes. A lot of people are worried about declensions and stuff like that. I know that they seem intimidating, but I want you to think of it as like a little cherry on top. It's like good to know them, but it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. People are still going to understand you. They will know what you mean. And I mean, it's not that big of a deal. And of course, I'm talking about learning Russian for yourself or for travel or something like that. If you're learning for work or for school, then it's a completely different situation. But if you just want to talk to people, then it's really not that big of a deal if you make mistakes. Also, the sentence structure in Russian and in other Slavic languages in general is very flexible. So that's another thing that makes Russian a little bit easier. Okay, the final thing I want to say is that certain parts of Russian can be challenging, but people make it so much easier. If you go to Central Asia or any other country where Russian is commonly spoken, people are just so incredibly nice. And trust me, like if you go there, you will want to study Russian even more. At least that's what happened to me. As I said, Russian was never a language that was on my radar. But once I experienced the kindness and hospitality of people in Central Asia, I knew that I wanted to continue learning Russian, and now it's one of my favorite languages. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I really hope you found it helpful. My goal for this year is to reach B2 and become fluent in Russian. I am crossing my fingers that I'll be able to do that. If you are learning Russian or are thinking about learning Russian, definitely let me know in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.